Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So welcome to our second planning group session. This session we're going to do two things. We're going to look at the tackle a problem key and whether anybody's had a go with it, the first key that we talked about last time, and then we're going to move on to our second key number 2, which is called experience the action. And we might hear fireworks in the background because it's November the 5th, and for some reason we still celebrate that.
Celebrate the death of
so
somebody who died 60 years ago.
I don't think it's going to be with us a whole lot longer, to be honest, but it is here for now. So the introductions, people are introducing themselves, I hope, in the chat. It's wonderful to have people here from all over Aotearoa and from Singapore and elsewhere as well. Welcome along. So first up, I'm going to invite anyone who's had a go, anyone who's tackle a problem, who might like to tell us about what they did with that. How did you get on? And any teacher planning examples. And I've already primed one person to maybe talk to us a little bit, which is Sue. Sue, are you able to tell us a little bit about how you used the tackle a problem?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if I did it completely thoroughly though.
Excellent.
I tried to use it in with a beautiful picture book called Old Cattle Dog, which may be familiar to one or two New Zealanders with us, which is about a farmer and his young son who are facing the problem of what to do with an old cattle dog who is now deaf. And they still take him up on the hills and he goes up and he wrangles all the cattle, but there is it deals with one particular incident where Breck, the dog, is standing up on the hill having done his wrangling and cannot hear the fact that he is being summoned down. And in the middle of the book is this fabulous picture of a very worried looking man. And I used that picture to, in fact, I opened up with that scene before I actually read any of the book. I opened up by trying to embody the problem that, a very worried man who was leaning on his ute window, whistling to a dog and then going like that, and then I asked the kids what they thought was going on. For a bunch of city Kiwis, they were remarkably onto it. I think probably the whistle let them, they say, oh, it's something to do with the dog. They're trying to get a dog to come, And then I left it at that and I read through to the book and we came to that scene where this beautiful illustration of this man who's looking a bit worried and we talked about what the dilemma was and what the options were for the farmer and what the implications were. And so the kids discussed the options. I don't think I did proper justice to that resolution bit.
Okay.
But that was the first time that I tried to use it. But we did, we in the process of having the discussions, we did actually sort of deal with, well, would this solution, what are the issues? They have to buy a new dog. What are they going to keep the dog? What do farmers do? Can they afford to keep it? Or they is it a euthanasia situation? And so and then the last page of the book actually resolves that.
So you allowed the book to guide you trusted the book to bring it to a resolution, whereas the key suggests that you can also play out different children could play out different resolutions. So
and that's what I feel.
It is a beautiful book. It's a beautiful book. I had a look at it after you'd shared that with me. I don't know if you can see here, but I've put the picture and the a little bit about it into our teacher planning document online. And of course the poignancy of the book is that yes, it's about a dear old dog, but it's also about loyalty and friendship and these human qualities between people, and that very delicate question of, you know, what happens when we feel old and useless, and do we still rely on friends to support us? So it's one of the things we love about quality picture books, isn't it? They take us into
and my son, who's studying to teach drama in secondary, said he encouraged me to make that connection for the kids. And I did that through a use of another key to make that connection between the dog and the humans.
Well done. Well done. Yeah, I mean it's a big part of all of our keys is to bring it back, you know, not to assume that the children are going to see those connections, but to always ask those questions, like, do things like this happen in real life, or what messages has this got for us as human beings, to kind of reduce the frame distance in the reflection stage. Well done, Sue. Gave it a go. And if you visit the teacher planning section, which is on the Try This website, you can see Sue's example and then a few others, the one we talked about last week with Whakarongo's version of Taniwha. There's also one here that I did with Rachel, how Kiwi saved the forest. I haven't primed you for this, Rachel, but did you want to talk about that just briefly? If you're there.
I think you've done it more recently than me, to be honest, Viv. But I've done a lot of books this way, and I love the question at the end. You know, does this just happen in storybooks, or does this happen in real life? And especially asking 5 and 6 year olds. So we explored the problem by I went into role to begin the story with over the dilemma that Tane Mahuta and who was the other one?
I think it's Tane Hoka Hoka.
Yeah,
in that
of the forest.
Of the story. Yeah.
Oh, there we are. And how they had a problem that they needed help solving, and that idea of thinking about the greater good beyond your own good. And that's 5 and 6 year olds can kind of get that. They're certainly grappling with it, and that at first they always say no, it's in a storybook, these things don't, and then they start, if I ask them further questions, they start to see the connection, and that perhaps they did tidy up something, but for the greater good they do tidy it up, or you know, just little things in everyday life of thinking about the greater good and what they do.
Thanks, Rachel. Is there anybody else? I can't see everybody at the moment. So is there anybody else who wants to tell us about their efforts to use this key? Oh, now I can see everybody. Oh, Tim, have you got your hand up? Do unmute for us, Tim.
I've got too many buttons. I don't know which ones to press.
Go.
So I just wanted to ask Sue, I didn't catch the age of the children, Sue.
You want to unmute for us, Sue?
Okay, sorry, something's happened to my screen. Anyway, they are years 5 and 6, so they are sort of recently turned 10 through to have just turned maybe approaching 11. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Because I'm becoming increasingly intrigued more and more by the power of an adult in role and the representation of that farmer and the dilemma that he's going through, and what that does psychologically in the classroom, and you know, tackling something like that, which is something that children of that age often have experience of, or if they don't have experience of, they're anticipating. So we've got 2 dogs at home, and our kids are, you know, in their 20s, but the thought of them, the dogs not being here, is heartbreaking. And how do you sort of delve into that world sensitively? And I think to do it through a book and then to personify someone who is feeling that, I think is a very powerful situation for children to explore, and sensitive as well.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion and sharing of at the end of so when I asked the decision, you know, does this happen in real life? There were a lot of case studies. Were
Yes,
quite willing to share. A colleague of mine used this as well, and she'd bought in a pair of gumboots to help with the personification, and later, the role, and later on she actually did, the kids literally put the gumboots on when they were sharing some of their ideas, and took on that role. And I'm very aware of now thinking about how we share the power with the teacher in role business, because it can be very, being enrolled is a very powerful position to be in, isn't it? Yeah.
Thanks, Sue. I'm sure that for those for whom the whole thing is new, hearing you talk about how year 5s and 6s will take this on, take it seriously, you know, put on gumboots and speak as the farmer, you know, it's all very well me and Tim telling them that this will work, but when they hear a teacher who's doing it with children and the children are willingly coming and trying that I can imagine that for a lot of people that's really reassuring and might help them take the first step. Charles, did you have something you were going to share with this key as well?
Well, yes, kia ora. Thank you, Viv and Tim. Really, I wanted to pass on my gratitude, because when I went to your workshop and have seen the book, I'm like, this is extraordinary. But actually to try it in the classroom, it really felt like that word unleashing really sprang to life for me. The first instance was where I had to relieve suddenly in a classroom in an afternoon, and I didn't, and they of 7, 8, and 9-year-olds, and they had been making Play-Doh in the morning and doing maths, and they'd set up this elaborate cafe, and they had all these different products and items at different prices. And they came in and they said, oh, Charles, that's like King Charles, isn't it? And I said, yes, indeed. And then I sort of bowed, and then I said, your cafe is very lucky, because King Charles is actually coming to your cafe, and I will be him. There's a lot to arrange. It's very stressful, and there'll be a lot of media, and you have to make sure the food is really great and find the things he loves. And so we started with that, and the sort of immediate flurry of action, and because of your workshop, I was able to sort of then flow it out into, he loves avocados, but the avocado truck has broken down, and someone else had to invent something, or then Camilla, there was a terribly grievous situation with Camilla, and a injury and that the children came up with, and so someone else invented a machine to make her better, and the quiet child who hadn't done anything and didn't want to engage was central in creating the machine. So it got fairly madcap, but I sort of managed to keep suggesting things that would engage different students so that everyone got really involved, and by the end the energy was wonderful. And so there was that, and another one where I planned a bit more with using the text Treasure, the Taniwha by Robin Kahukiwa, which is in your book.
Yes.
And that was really lovely. The Māori immersion students, years 5 and 6-year-olds, the beautiful gestures of offering to the friend, holding these treasures forward, just seeing the different movements, and what was it like? What would I be holding that moment? and the amount of questions and thoughts, and it was just so cool. Yeah. And then another one I did was about drawing the dinosaur foot, and the boys who had been wrestling and bouncing around the room suddenly said, dinosaur foot, and all came round the big piece of paper. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like magic. Anyway, so and for the next while it was, yeah, anyway, I won't go on, but I just want to say it's been completely revelatory to me to give things a go and recognize that it actually is incredibly empowering for me as a nervous beginning teacher to experience this and to have the kind of book and your guidance as a pathway ahead. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Charles. That's wonderful to hear. It's wonderful to hear. And when we get to whichever key that was, you know, I think it's solve a clue. We want more of that story. Tim.
No, I just wanted to thank Charles as well. Thanks, Charles. That's great feedback. That's really, because all those days and days of Viv and I writing and exchanging Zoom calls and thinking about things, and they were sort of long days, weren't they, Viv? And then to hear it actually working in the classroom and doing that, I'm just as you were talking, I could see all these boys bouncing around, as you say, and maybe not having a focus, and then suddenly something happens. And it's theatre. That's what's happening. And theatre is something that grabs the human imagination, you know, because you're not a teacher who's telling, you're a teacher who's creating, as you say, like a kind of magic. You know, that is, theatre is a sort of a magic, isn't it, in our imagination. Anyway, yeah, thanks. That's brilliant. Brilliant to hear.
So I want to say that you can trust that key one, tackle a problem. It's the first key in the book for a reason. It was written, I created this one some years ago when I was trying to think of something to give first year student teachers as their first go in drama, where they could each write something unique, and I could give each one the same task and they'd still come up with something unique for the students. So that it's literally been used hundreds and hundreds of times. I think I said this in our last meeting, and mostly successfully. So I think it's a very trusted key, a very solid key. And I know there are others here who have used it. So please carry on sharing your idea, you know, sharing what you did perhaps in the chat, or I'd also really encourage you, if you do have successes with it, to pop onto the teacher planning document. There's a spot actually on the Try This site where you can just pop into a form what you've done, and then I can transfer it onto the site, because it's great, isn't it, to see other people's examples. This is the part of the book, the book project that really comes to life, is when we say, here's what I've done, here's what he's done, and then over here are the other things that teachers around the world have done. So do help us bring that part to life. That would be great. Is there anybody else busting to share an example? Because we've still got about 5 minutes of the first half, if anybody wants to speak now. Go, Jess.
Hi, I was relieving on Friday afternoon, and the teacher had left me this note: reliever's choice. So I had year 7s, and I quickly grabbed the book, The Red Poppy. If anyone knows it, World War I, and so we were soldiers, and there's the moment of tension is where the New Zealand soldier is in a the explosion has gone off, and he's hidden in a hole, and he realizes he's injured, and he realizes the other part of the hole there's a German soldier. So in that moment, all the students have to decide, what are they going to do? Are they in danger? Do they need to kill this person? But they're wounded and their gun is broken. And then, of course, what's the German soldier thinking too? So there's that tension there, and getting them moving away from just going, let's kill him, because in the book they actually become friends and are able to converse. So that was a really good book to do on a Friday afternoon. And so, yeah, and straight to the tension was the important bit.
You did it. You did it. How fantastic. Thank you, Jess. I love how the formula can work with so many different contexts. And oh, yeah, that's a hot topic to use, right, to dump right into a moment in a trench. Well done, brave teacher. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, do keep sharing those examples in the chat if you'd like to. What I'll do now is move on to our second half, which is to looking at key number 2, which we've called Experience the Action. And I'm going to demonstrate with well, it's an Aotearoa New Zealand example in as much as it's something that I've done here in Aotearoa New Zealand. It isn't actually a New Zealand book. It's a book by an American author. But I encountered this in a classroom in Hamilton for the first time. So big ups to Pip, who isn't here tonight, but she is the one who said, oh, I've got this most beautiful book. So and again, this is a very tried and tested key. You're going to see it demonstrated with a particular book, but this one is good, as we'll talk about in a minute. It's really good if your book has lots of action in it. Key 1 is great if your book has got a really strong tension in it. Some books have different flavors, don't they? So some are kind of action-packed, lots of doing, lots of movement, lots of things happening. Some have a kind of a tension turning point. So my instinct is I reach for key 1 for the tension-based book, and I reach for key 2 when it's an action-packed book. And to be honest with you, I often combine the two. But I think in some ways this is another key that I've produced, and I think in some ways this is the simplest key in the book. If you've never encountered this before, when we do it, you're going to go, is that it? Because yeah, it's really, really, really simple. And those of you who've worked with me in the past will have encountered this strategy as what we used to call let's all be plus, because that's what I hold in my head as I'm teaching. Let's all be plus. And the reason for that is when you think about children playing dramatic games, they say, don't they, let's all be firefighters. Everybody knows what that means. Let's all be. So let's all be is child speak already. It's a prompt that encourages. It means lots of things. Let's is a great word. It's like, it's an invitation. It's you and me. It's let us. It's a we word, isn't it? You know, all is we're going to do it all together, and be is shorthand for we're going to represent some people in an imagined world. So let's all be is a really powerful stem. Of course, we can't be those people. What we're actually saying is, let's imagine for a moment that we could represent some people in a story. But children understand that that's what you mean when you say let's all be. And then the plus is a really crucial part of it, as we'll see. So I might just start by demonstrating with the book that I've used as my example in the book. It's one of those books that's got the most beautiful illustrations, again, a bit like the Cattle Dog. And it's one of those books that uses animal relationships to stand in for human relationships. And just a content note, it does go into subjects of loss. So just be aware of that. But it's the most beautiful. It's dogs again. It's dogs again. It seems to be the day of dogs. So I'm just gonna begin as I would with children, and I don't even necessarily do a big spiel about the fact that we're going to do drama. Really, we just start reading. So the first page says spring, and the first bit of text says City Dog didn't stop on that first day in the country. He ran as far and as fast as he could, and all without a leash. So there's lots of action there. So the teacher just lays down the book for a moment and says, hey, let's all be, without even leaving the mat, let's all be City Dog the moment he was let off his leash. Shall we do it? We're all on Zoom, but shall we all be City Dog the moment he was let off his leash? Without, you can turn away from the camera so you're not worried about other people looking at you, and let's all be City Dog the moment he's let off the leash. Go. And then the plus part is that I'll turn to someone and I'll go, hey, City Dog, Scylla City Dog, what are you doing? What are you doing? And Scylla might answer me. She's muted, unfortunately, but she said something. What did you say, Scylla? What are you doing, City Dog?
Just out for a stroll.
Yeah, for a stroll. What can you see over there? I'm just gonna, in the classroom, I'd probably make eye contact, but I'm gonna have to say names. Sue, City Dog, what can you see over there?
There's something under one of those bushes and it's moving.
Let's
I want
check
to
it
go and
out.
find
Let's check
it.
out. Right, you get the idea. And then we just bring it back to the mat. Now it can be as simple as that. What we did was I said, let's all be. We all beat it. And then when we were busy being it, I added a plus. So in my head, I went, what is an inquiry question I can ask out of this situation? What is something I can do that adds a little bit of a creative question to the children? So Scylla's response, oh, I'm just out for a bit of a stroll. That's not in the book. That's her responsively, creatively responding, engaging in oral language. And if you're 5 years old, that's quite a big thing, right? And if I say to Sue, what can you see over there? She's suddenly actually using her dramatic imagination to tell quite an intricate part of the story. There might be something under that bush. Shall we go and explore? It's a plus element. It's very simple, but it's a plus element. And it's that plus that takes it out of simple enactment. If you say, let's all be City Dog, and everybody gallivants around the classroom, that's drama kind of, but that's pretending, and there's no inquiry there. The plus is vital because it's what gives it the inquiry aspect. Are you with me? Yeah. So, and the teacher, we can talk about how we plan it, but for the teacher, often the plus will just come to you in the moment, because if you drop yourself into the imagined world, the questions will come to you. That's easier to think of them sometimes on the paw or on the hoof than planning too much in advance. And then when everybody's done that, you bring them back down and you carry on with the story, and you've got this beautiful anchor of the story, because you're not going to get an out of control class. I know it sounds like they're going to be out of control, but in fact, they understand that mostly what we're doing is reading a book. So the body language tends to be quite contained. You'd be surprised. Okay, City Dog spotted something he had never seen sitting on a rock. It was Country Frog. What are you doing? Oh, I'm going to stop there. It was Country Frog. So let's all be Country Frog sitting there on that rock. Are we sitting? Hey, Rachel Hamilton Giggs, Country Frog. What you doing?
Oh, I'm just really enjoying this lovely flat stone, this rock, and enjoying the sunshine.
What's that big hairy thing looking down at you?
I'm really trying to ignore that big hairy thing looking down at me.
Great, thank you for showing us how that can happen. Simple as that. So I'm keeping mine really, really simple here deliberately, because I think it's a simple story, and I think it's about walking in the shoes of that person or that character just for a little while. And because we haven't got a lot of complexity, if I try to deep dive into a whole lot of deeper meaningfuls at this point, this is not where the story's taking us. But we're easing the children into the idea that we can be people and we can inquire what it's like to be people. This is a really good the basic of dramatic inquiry. And so it goes on. What are you doing? Asked City Dog. Waiting for a friend, replied Country Frog with a smile. But you'll do. City Dog and Country Frog played together. City Dog was new to the country, so Country Frog taught him Country Frog games. So lots of action here. All we need to say is, let's all be, put in the character name. And then what I do is I make sure that I echo back the language from the text. So Country Frog taught him Country Frog games. Let's all be Country Frog teaching Dog Country Frog. So you're modeling that language shift from the tense in the language. So let's all be Country Frog teaching him Country Frog games. And you can do the whole book just individually, like we've been doing up to now. Or you might, as a teacher, get to a point like this and go, oh, hang on, this time I need to get them into pairs, don't I? So you just pause for a moment and you go, okay, let's all be that. So this time we'll need to get into pairs and head off. One of you will be Country Frog, one of you will be City Dog. I wonder what games you're going to teach him. Off you go. And so it's sort of slightly complexifying, but it's still, the basic idea is let's all be. And then you're looking for that plus element. And the plus element might be an inquiry question about what games you taught him. And 5 and 6 year olds do come back to the mat and say that I taught him leapfrog, I taught him splashing, I taught him how to use flippers to create tidal waves in the pond. You know, it may not seem like complex inquiry, but it kind of is. Is this making sense, folks? So if all you want to do is go, let's all be, and do it all individually, you can. But when you get to a moment like this, you've obviously got the option to pair off and then introduce little drama conventions if you know what those are. Oh, let's all be City Dog and Country Frog playing those games, but let's do it like a frozen picture, like somebody walking past took a photo of them. That's what a drama convention is, isn't it? It's just a let's all be plus with a different name. Anyway, Country Frog's games involve jumping and splashing and croaking. I just love the illustrations in this book. They're so great, aren't they? And that was spring. And so it goes. And the book continues. And you know, that was spring. That's not got any action in it. So you're not going to do a let's all be for that page, are you? Let's all be spring? No, it's the action parts of the story. You can feel the action parts. Summer. City Dog didn't stop to admire the green grass as he ran straight for Country Frog's rock. So let's all be City Dog running straight for, and then you're just asking questions. What are you anticipating? What do you think is going to happen? We're having this lovely reading to talking with action and with little bits of inquiry as we go. And of course, the book gets more complex as it goes on because it's a quality picture book. I'm going to do you a favor, says City Dog, and he starts to teach him Country Frog games. And City Dog and Country Frog play until Country Frog is too tired, and that is summer. Can you see the pictures? They're beautiful. And in fall, otherwise known as autumn, where we live, City Dog didn't stop as he ran through the falling leaves, and this time Country Frog takes a deep breath and says, I am tired. Maybe we can play remembering games. And they remembered things that they'd done together. So you can invite the children to, let's all be City Frog remembering. What do you remember, City Frog? What do you remember, Country Frog? Dog, what do you... And at this point, the children are picking up the tone of the book and are changing the kinds of ways they're talking and behaving. They've had the jolly romp. And here's a picture that I've done in the past. Even though the text just says that was fall, there's a picture and there's the Country Frog reaching out. And so I've sometimes said, let's all be Country Frog, reaching out that hand to touch the nose of our dear friend the dog. And then the plus element might be a question about that. What's the thought that's in your mind? And then in winter, City Dog belts off down and looks for Country Frog, and looks and looks and looks. And it doesn't say anything, but he isn't there. And we've spent an awful lot of time with that picture. Again, I'm deviating slightly because there's no action words, but we can all be parts of this picture. Let's all be parts of this picture. And you know what, even if you get to a book like this and there's no more action words in it and you're simply reading the book, you've still had a richer engagement with the book because the children have been and inquired around the characters. So, you know, even if you get to a page like this and you go, oh, I don't know what to do with it, you still know that you've deepened the children's responses. But you could easily say, let's all be City Dog sitting there on that rock. And what's going through your mind, City Dog? And if you do know other tools, other keys, like the 6 dimensions or the 5 levels of meaning making, you can bring those in at that time. Anyway, spring again. Country Chipmunk spotted something she had never seen sitting on a rock. There's Country Chipmunk. It was City Dog. What are you doing? Asked Country Chipmunk. Waiting for a friend, said City Dog sadly. We could all be, couldn't we? We could be Country Chipmunk, we could be City Dog at this point. Then he smiled a froggy smile. I love that. It's my favorite picture in the book. But you'll do, he said. Oh, Gretchen gets it. And that was spring again. So that's that beautiful book. And you'll see the way I use this key is I keep fairly tight to the story. I don't use Let's All Be Plus to go off necessarily on these massive adventures, but you can. And if you look at the example that Tim's done in the book, he tends to kind of use it to leap off in quite long diversions away from the book. But for me, this is a good one for absolute beginners, dramatic inquiry, or times when you just have a picture book and you just want to, you actually almost want to keep the group on the mat, but you want to bring in a little bit of drama and a little bit of inquiry. Thoughts? Anybody done that one? Anybody see them? Oh, Tim's got thoughts. Go, Tim.
Just a couple of things really. But first of all, the contrast between this key and Tackle a Problem.
Yeah.
And the way that this key brings the children into the fiction. So it cut, you know, this idea of casting. So in this Let's All Be, this invitation is for the children now to take on the role of people within the fiction inside the story. And how that contrasts with Tackle a Problem, and the kind of what Sue was saying, this thing about role, it's a powerful thing. And in Let's All Be, you're sharing that experience, that power. The second thing is that although the story has a kind of a sadness to it, it's kind of is happy and buoyant, and the way you tell it is lovely. And obviously, you know, you can have just imagine the children having this lovely time as a dog and a frog. But I was thinking about Jess's context and it would work just as well in that context as well. Obviously, you'd have to say it in a slightly different way, or a very different way, but it would be the same thing. So you'd say that, I wonder what it was like to be the soldier in the trench. Let's all be, just for a moment, the German soldier. You know, what do you think might be going through their minds? What might be going through their heads? You know, what might they be thinking of as they're lying there in the mud, hearing the explosions around them? That's exactly the same thing, isn't it? It's Let's All Be. Yeah,
and it's also the plus. It's also the plus.
And
the plus is what
exactly.
might be going through their heads. Is the plus
right?
part. Yeah.
Right. So although it appears, because both our examples really are for younger children, actually thinking now that if we should have done one for older children, because Jess's context would have been perfect. We could have written one for that, because it would have been a great contrast in how actually that key would work just as well with older children in a different kind of context.
Thanks, Tim. Any other thoughts from the floor?
No,
Are there
I just
people, just give me a
I-
wave if you, I promise I won't make you talk. If you've tried this. Have you tried this, Sue? Yeah.
no, have I? Have I? I don't know, but I actually, Tim, you answered my question. There was a question in my head. Do you think this would work for older kids?
Mm.
Answered it. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Well, the kind of the sneaky secret, which I'm just about to put on video for all time, is that actually every drama convention is a form of let's all be plus. Because every drama convention is a way of saying let's all be in this world. Sometimes I'll be in the world and you watch. Sometimes we'll all be in it together. You know, it's a shortcut to saying let's make some drama. Except that it is all saying let's all be in the same role all together. But you know, sometimes you do find yourself right. Let's all be Country Frog and City Dog. I'll be Country Frog. You all be City Dog. You know, those are all actually just drama conventions. So since drama works with all ages, yes, it would work with all ages. You're getting a very strong sense of the tone because I've used this practice with a book that feels like a younger book. But then again, I've also done this book with adult learners. And because it's got that jolly romp start and then that more serious tone later, it's a book of contrast, and that is wonderful. And everybody I've ever done this with, they end up they're kind of almost lighthearted, taking it like we were, a little bit lighthearted at the start, and by the end there's that, oh gosh, we've gone somewhere serious. But yeah. You were going to say Rachel Jackson, or were you just going to say that you've given
I'm just nodding my head in agreement, saying this is
so
wonderful.
you've given it a go before? Yeah.
Let's all be plus. Yeah,
Yeah.
as such. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Yeah, I'm just enjoying this thing.
It's freeing, isn't it, to know it can be this simple.
Yeah.
Trust me, many of the keys are more complex than this. But again, this is a one early in the book, so that you don't have to write a context. It's all here in the book. It's as simple or as complex as you want it to be. You know what? If you, as I was saying to someone the other day was agonizing that they'd found these points of action in the story, but I don't know what to do for the plus. I said, you know what? No alarm is going to go off going, she didn't do a plus. You know, if you can't find the deepening and the inquiry with it, just no one can tell. That's fine. So it's a very easy starting. It's one to use if you're just wondering how kids are going to respond when you invite them to be in an imagined world, and just to get over that fear factor that you can feel before you're going to roll for the first time, or before, because it's sort of low penalty. Yeah. Let's have a look at one of, go on,
Viv, just to jump in just for one moment. If you sort of ask them, let's all be City Dog, and the children get very, very excited, which is possible, and in my experience probably quite likely, and they start bounding around the classroom because they want to be dogs that bound. Don't panic is in my experience. No. The thing to do is, Viv mentioned this thing about conventions, is that the book is using a convention of still images. The book's full of pictures.
This book,
so if you say to the children, just come out, just come back again. So you've got control again. You've got them back, back on the mat. And you say to them, I'll tell you what, let's do this again, but let's imagine that this is a picture in the book. So let's all be City Dog again, but rather than bounding and running around, let's all imagine that we're a picture in the book. And what that will do is that the children will then select something, a moment of what they are as the dog, but it won't be them running around the room. And it will be more, what it will give you is a bit of control, but it will also be more contemplative.
Yeah.
Because when you have to select out of all this rushing around and fun that they're having, it is just a moment that's going to be in a picture. So
Oh,
the
we should have
moment,
put that in the book. We should have put that in as part of the key.
well, but it just occurs to me that's probably
Yeah.
if you did it in the classroom, you just want to just be a little bit more sort of just say, okay, let's just hold it there, because you want them to have fun. You want them to engage in the book. That's part of the whole process that Viv's describing, is them kind of pretending to be dogs and sniffing and running around and bounding. But you also want them to just be a little bit more thoughtful. So if they just hold the moment as if they're a picture, you know, city dog sniffing, or sniffy dog, sorry, sniffy dog, city dog running after a ball or something, but just in the moment. That'll hold.
I often find as well that just that little I hear you, Tim, and I think what you're saying is about elevating it to the aesthetic a little bit. I often find it in the that simple thing of just saying, without leaving the mat, let's all be. Then they kind of understand that it's a contained representation. It's kind of a discussion about what it might be like to be city dog with their bodies, right? You know, and they'll often keep the movements quite small then, and that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's the second option, is saying, right, so without leaving that, because I'm holding a picture book, and because they understand that the conventions are reading to, talking about, reading to, talking with, they kind of, in my experience, and I've done it dozens of times, they just don't race off, and they all haven't so far. But your suggestion is an excellent one. Rachel, go.
I agree with Tim. My kids tend to race off. Some of them sort of peel off the pack. So I do that. I do say let's be in that moment. Also, this age group, they like to make a lot of noise connected to the movement they're doing. So often we get agreement that dogs don't tend to talk a lot, or you know, or we're a creature that isn't keen on things noticing us too much where we are. So these animals. So I also bring that in as well, that we're quiet. Otherwise, it's hard to be heard at times.
And the thing is, it's about a short burst of that. You know, a short exuberant burst, and then come back to the mat. And Scylla, what were you going to add to that?
I had a pūrākau from Ngāti Awa, and I was going to use it as part of the tackle the problem. And so it's about the arrival of the kumara o te tangamai o te kumara ki Whakatane. Anyway, it's not a picture book, but it was just a pūrākau that I was narrating, and I got the kids to, well, didn't realise it was key too, but I'm thinking it very close, just to do the actions as the two men are paddling the waka through the ocean. So I got them to be the two brothers, and then first we had we stopped to give a looking image, because they're looking for their sister. That's why they set out across the ocean. So the kids did that. Okay, all right. Do you think we can be the two brothers, like paddling? And then as the kids are doing that, I said, oh, look, there's some big waves. Can you see the big waves? Yes, we can see them. And it was great. And I didn't realise maybe I was doing components of the key too, because I was really building up the story to get to tackle the problem.
As I say, they combine beautifully, don't they? And I think the little gift I would give you to think about the next time you're enacting a story is to just think about that plus. What's the plus? What's the inquiry? And ask them a question, as you did there, that's from within the story. Right. So how are we going to get over those big waves? Yeah. What did we bring? What did we bring in the way of Kai with us for this journey? Yeah. What you know, something that it deepens the inquiry, that, because the Let's All Be is kind of about enactment, but which actually probably isn't all that creative, because they're kind of enacting the story, but the thinking that they've got to do to come up with the answer to the inquiry question, that's really what we're going for in this key. So it's the plus that gives it the dramatic inquiry element. Yeah. So that's why I remind us to go, let's all be plus.
Thank you.
So next time you're paddling your waka, yeah, maybe just bring in that plus. That could be a lovely next step. So that sort of takes me. I'm just conscious we're getting close to time.
Viv,
Real benefits of this key. Yes, Tim.
Can
Yes,
I
Tim.
just one thing? The thing about if they're being noisy, again, the application of the convention of a picture gives you control over that as well, because as well as pictures not moving, they don't make a noise. So the dogs can be noisy, but in the picture they can't be noisy. But it could have a piece of text. So the dog barked, the dog whined, the dog, I don't know, whatever other things dogs do. But the convention is the thing that would, because they'll be silent because pictures are silent. So if they're barking, the picture will show they're barking because it will go like that or something, but it won't actually be making a noise. So I just wanted to point that out.
No, it's great. And because this key is all wrapped around a picture book, it makes sense of asking them to make a picture. I mean, one of the slight problems with the conventions-based approach to drama teaching is that we say things like do a freeze frame. But in this case, stopping in the moment makes sense because we're part of a picture book telling of the story. So we can always say, let's be like the next picture in the story. Let's make that a picture in the story. Yeah, cool. So I think we've touched on many of the benefits that this key offers. I mean, and this is all sort of described in the book, so I don't necessarily need to repeat it, but one of the things we often talk about and think about when we're thinking about these keys is their use in cultural contexts. And whereas we were talking last time about how if you've got a puraka or a cultural story where it's important to have the story stuck to, as it were, you know, then key one, tackle a problem in the way that it's described in the Try This book. It changes the endings, right? So that can be not quite a fit. Whereas an advantage of Experience the Action, this Let's All Be Plus, is it does sort of hug close to the story. So we can be Maui and his brothers approaching the sun and throwing the net, and all the only bits we're adding are kind of what we might be thinking about doing, you know, carrying. We're kind of padding out the story as it's told and remembered. And for many people, that seems to be really comfortable. It's not a dead set. I think it's important for you to check because we're still, you know, there's still some uncertainty about whether we should all be romping about embodying Atua and that kind of thing. But it seems to hug the story more closely, and so therefore I think there is more of a sense of that traditional idea of drama as enacting stories as they are. So that's quite good. It definitely has the advantage of helping students remember stories. I'd suggest to you that you will remember City Dog, Let Off the Lead, even yourself, because you've been in it. You've created a memory. It's not just an idea. You've created a memory and you've put it in your story, in your body. And it's got that all-important plus aspect, that inquiry aspect, which can be as deep as you want to take it, really. It's going to depend on where in the story you're at, how deep your inquiry, your plus part goes. So I think in terms of disadvantages or limitations, I think we've kind of touched on some of those and some of the ways to counter that in the way that it's described in the book, which is simply, you know, let's just be it. Like, oh, that's quite open-ended and playful and rompy, and that can be a bit shallow. And so Tim's given us some suggestions for controlling that through the convention of still image. It is a limited key because it just simply does those two things. We be it, and then we do a tiny little burst of inquiry. So it is what it is, and that's both a great thing and a limitation. So if you want it to go deeper and more three-dimensional, you probably need to be bringing in some of the techniques and nuances from other keys, like the 6 dimensions, which we'll talk about in future sessions, or like some of the deeper questioning. Or you might want to break away from just telling the story and then use another key to go deep. It's going to be limited in the depth that it takes you to. but it is, I think it's a strong, there's a strong argument for this key in terms of some of the stuff we're being told to, certainly in Aotearoa, to teach with literacy. I love that shift of tense that we get, you know, city dog romped through the forest, let's all be city dog romping through the forest. We've got that shift in tense indicated every time. In terms of curriculum learning areas, yes, if you, depending on the book that you choose, clearly you could take this into Anzacs, you could take this into New Zealand history, you could take this into your pūrākau from your local area. It's the context is all there in the book for you, and there's a huge huge advantage of this key is that it doesn't require very much planning at all. I think I feel quite confident, as long as I know the book, I can just walk into a classroom and give it a go. And, you know, as I say, if you skip a bit of action, you sort of think, no, we're not doing that. No one knows. No one's going, oh, you missed that bit. And if you skip a plus here and there, no one knows either. So it's low stakes, low prep, really easy and straightforward. So you get your planning tips in the book. I think I've said all of this. There probably are some books that, you know, there definitely are some books in the world that you wouldn't use with children, you know, if they're really disturbing themes, or if you don't want to be asking children to be people in sort of traumatic situations. But most picture books have, you know, quality picture books have that sense of distance and care and things built into them. So on the whole, I think, you know, something like you were describing about the people in the trenches, Jess, there's, you know, it's not, you're not saying let's all be soldiers being shot to death. You're saying let's be that soldier hunkered down and the explosion's just gone on and he's there waiting to see what happens next. And the author has built that safety into it for you. Okay, so those are the steps to follow. And I don't know, do you feel like this might be one that you could have a go with? Did anybody bring books with them that they can see potential? Yeah, fantastic. So look forward to hearing how you get on, and please do have a go and email us if you need support with your planning, or you're not sure how to you know, or if you think there might be more you could do, or you're not sure what your plus might be. We're always available on learningwithimagination@gmail.com, and it makes us very happy to hear your examples. And yeah, we definitely really want to see the teacher planning collection build. There's no examples currently in the experience the action section, so we'd love to get them. Yeah, so your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to give this one a go before we meet again. Thumbs up if you think you might be able to. Rachel's going to. Yay! Rachel's going to. Oh, look, all these people. Right, we'll hold you to that. Thank you so much for joining us. Any last words before we wrap up? Anything I've missed in the chat? I haven't been able to watch the chat and everything else. No? We all good? I'll just thank you so much all for coming. That was great to spend the time with you and with that lovely simple accessible key. I'll just pass over to Scylla, who's gonna said she would be able to close for us. Thank you, Scylla, and thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you very much, Viv and Tim, for having us tonight, and hello to everybody. But we'll just close and karakia. Karakia whakamutunga kia tau, kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou arekia ui karaiti, me tō aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga, ki te wairua tapu, āki āki āmine. So let your spirit and the love of Jesus and God rest upon us tonight. In Jesus' name, Amene.
Amene. Thank you. Kia ora, everybody. Ka kite. See you next time.
Pomari.